pillows to
Are
reach
there
me.
some pillows in another room?
Maybe kind of injure yourself.
Oh, yeah, whatever. March 14th, 2012, my son Thomas lost his battle with the disease of addiction. I now belong to a club that no parent should ever belong to. Do you know the signs? Do you know the trends that children are doing in today's world? Do you know the signs and symptoms? Do you know the signs and symptoms of drug abuse? I want to empower and educate Long Islanders by bringing a force of professionals and how to prevent the disease of addiction. Long Island in crisis. This show is dedicated to the education and empowerment of all people regarding substance use disorder. We live in a crazy world, and we are losing a generation. A child or a person every day on Long Island in Suffolk County, so actually 2 a day, are lost, are removed from their families. They are found dead. I'm all too familiar. On March 14, 2012, I lost my 21-year-old son due to substance use disorder. So people will say, well, he was a bad kid, a good kid. They're all good people, and sometimes good people make one bad choice, and a disease is ignited in their brain. So we all need to recognize that substance use disorder is defined as a disease, and the patients that are suffering with the disease and their families need to be treated with respect and dignity while they are battling this disease. It causes chaos in a family, and no one can understand the absolute chaos that is ensuing other than the family members themselves. So we all need to be a little bit more compassionate. We all need to recognize and really educate ourselves on what the disease does. And we are losing a generation of young people to the disease. The heroin and opiate epidemic is on fire. So if anyone thinks it's getting any better, it's not. We have to start empowering our young people not to, alcohol is still the #1 killer. I will just say that. We can't say that our kids are only, smoking pot and drinking beer. That's not okay at the age of 12. So just want really to implore you to pay attention, empower yourself, and go back to being part of a community. Watch out for your neighbors. Watch out for their children. You see something, say something, because you may be saving a life. So tonight, we're really going to focus on my good friend Donna DiBiase has a publication that's going to bring some more awareness, some more resources to people that are suffering, that they can have almost, a reference guide on where to find help, how to find help. Because when you're in the midst of a crisis, it's very difficult to remain calm and focused on what you have to do, especially when you're afraid that, you're going to get that phone call that your loved one has passed. So Donna, welcome. And we also have Maureen and Jessica. So, you guys, we're going to get to your piece of the puzzle in a minute.
Right. Thank you very much for
You're
having me on the show.
very welcome. So,
And
first
right
off, the
the
magazine is going to come out around the end of November?
The end of November.
Okay.
We are launching. We are a pending
501c3.
501c3. Everything is going wonderful with that, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen a lot quicker. What I want to say first, really, is the reason why I did this is for someone like you.
For all the Thomases in the world.
For all the Thomases in the world, for the parents who lost someone, for the person who is in recovery, for the wonderful, amazing organizations that are out there that are here on Long Island. Organizations such as LICAD and
Which
FIST.
is, well, so it's Long Island Council on Alcohol and Drug Dependency.
Yes.
FIST is Families in Supportive Treatment.
LIRA.
LIRA, Long Island Recovery Associates.
So that's, a little bit too of why I did this, and I'll explain to you even more. I'm a big advocate, okay, and on a personal level, I had addiction in my family. Lost someone who I loved more than life at 21 years old, Lindsay Rigney. Yeah. And friends who lost children, friends who I was in from junior high school to high school, and I have more friends whose children, these are good families too, that are suffering from the disease of addiction, and it's a disease. So the reason why, I did this, and more of the purpose of the magazine too, was it's a pending, it's a non-for-profit, but it was to give back. Okay, it's to give back. So I don't know, I want to put everything in order on how this came about, and the wonderful person who funded this to get started, and what she's all about, and everything what the whole magazine is going to be about. So the magazine is going to be, it's 54 pages. It's going to be a 54-page publication. It's coming out at the end of November. It's going to be a quarterly publication, and it is a free publication. And we are setting up all our distribution. We are going to be in schools, in government buildings, in rehab facilities. We are going to be in pain management, doctor's offices, and we're trying to, really get it everywhere. So whoever is watching the show, if you would like to receive the publication, just, I guess at the end,
we can put it on there, but you can always just reach out to me on Facebook, on Thomas's Hope Facebook page. Send me an email on thomashopefoundation.org. You can, just send an email and we'll get you right over to Donna. No issues.
And the focus of the magazine, the true focus of the magazine, is to say that recovery is possible.
I'm going to hold it up.
Yes.
And the name is A2R.
A2R, Addiction to Recovery. And if you could see the logo, I absolutely love it. It was created by Fantastic Graphics USA. And it's beautiful. It's a bridge, and there's a road, and it's like the road to recovery. And I am very honored to have the face of recovery to launch the issue is Nora Milligan. She is just an amazing woman. Her story.
Well, Nora is a critical care nurse.
Yes.
She is a missionary. She's mom, whose son is still battling. She has quite the story, and is an advocate, and tries to also empower and educate people, and has a beautiful, she's in recovery. Actually, Friday we'll celebrate 7 years.
7 years, and even what she's doing.
And an amazing photographer.
Oh, amazing photographer, and her missionary work, and I'm just, we love her. We just love her, as we love you too. But also, the purpose of the magazine too is to be able to fund organizations, other 501c. For example, for Thomas's Hope, we want to be able to fund and help LICAD and FIST. So
LICAD is Long Island Council on
I know.
Alcohol and Drug Dependency. So for other people in other, because if you're not in New York, or if you are in New York but in another county, you can reach out to your National Council on Alcohol and Drug Dependency. They are free. Those services are free to anyone that reaches out to them. So that's an important, message to give across. There are a lot of organizations that do offer free services, at least to help get you in the right direction.
And that's basically to what we want to do. We want to be able to have this publication basically as a Bible. because I know, you know, when someone would call me or come to me, and I'm sure you experience the same
Yeah.
thing, and you try to get them to the right resources, and it's okay. So then you're like, go on the computer, do this. We are going to have everything basically compacted within the publication. Where to go for detox, where to go for family support, you know, from A to R, from addiction to recovery. What we will also do is there are so many people that are in this. For example, some of our writers. I'm proud to say that some of our writers and the things that they've submitted has been wonderful. I'm proud to say that Claudia Peters Ragney from the Kenneth Peters Center, she's going to be a staple writer. I was more than honored that Dr. Delman is going to be writing.
Dr. Michael Delman's been on the show. He's brilliant.
He's
He
amazing.
is a fellow in.
Right. You're going to be a writer.
Yes.
We have, and we will also want to get the word out too with a lot of the coalitions, of what the coalitions are doing, you know, in the movement. So it's all going to be there. It's going to be very empowering. It's going to be very educational. We are also going to be providing resources and helplines. We are going to be giving the numbers, for example, for the Suffolk County Crime Stoppers. There's a lot of people I know who I talk to, they don't even know about the 911 Good Samaritan law. So
I'm going to stop you because when we say things like this, we're going to educate. The 911 Good Samaritan law says that anyone who is, perhaps you are doing the wrong thing, I shouldn't say the wrong thing, you suffer with the disease, you're with your friends, you're both doing drugs or, you know, consume too much alcohol, don't run away. Call the police. You will not get in trouble. You will not be arrested. Nothing will happen to you. You just call, you stay with your friend so that your friend doesn't die. That's basically what the law says.
There's so many people who don't know about it. I mean, let's take, for example.
Well, we still, you know, kids are kids. Right. And if you're high or impaired, you're not going to make the right decision. Right, exactly. You're going to be scared and you're going to just, you know, do something silly and bolt and leave your friend.
First instant.
Exactly right. So we have really in 2000 and I think it was 7, Natalie Chiappa, she was at a party in a garage in Seaford.
Yep.
They cleaned up the party with her laying on the floor. So, you know, she was the first, really the face.
So they don't realize that.
But she was a senior in high school. This is the first face of addiction. You know, a cheerleader, beautiful, A student, all of these things. Her parents could not believe she was a heroin addict.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
It really is. It's, you know, and it's heartbreaking. But also, I mean, when you see someone in recovery, just take, for example, for Nora, I mean, it's so encouraging too, and it makes you just want to.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And also there's a lot of young people that I met who have now been sober, who's been sober 3 years and 4 years, and you know it's great, but you always have to, you know what I mean. There's always that chance that God forbid.
Well, you know,
relapse.
It is a disease that they will battle for the rest of their lives, and I don't mean battle, but when you work on your recovery will work. So they need to create a community that supports them. You know, so we need a societal shift where partying isn't the number one thing. I know, you know, you party in the Hamptons. You know, Long Island is set up and geared for that kind of activity. So, you know, when people struggling with the disease come back to our communities, we need to have places that they can go. That they can spend an evening, watch a Super Bowl sober,
Right.
with other people that are along the same road that they are along.
Oh yeah, they have even
Yeah.
sober vacations. I know of a
Well, we
couple
also have
that,
Young People in Recovery,
Yeah.
which is an organization that now, from like 18 to 30, they go snowmobiling, they go they go skiing, and they all come together and they go have good, clean fun.
Right.
Exactly. So that's really, a lot about the publication. Again, it's going to be 54 pages. We are launching with 25,000 magazines that we're going to basically like hand deliver, right to your door. And it's just a miracle how this whole thing happened. How I met the woman who believed in this, who wanted to do more. A very dear friend of mine, his name is John Mahaldo. He knows a lot of my advocacy work and what I do. And we were speaking one day, and I told him, I says, I said, it's funny. I had gone somewhere, and it was a rehab facility. And there was nothing like on the table, to read. And I picked up the newspaper, and I was like, And back then I thought, I said, you know what? I wish there was something that I could pick up and just to read. I took a young lady with me to, to try and get her help, and there was nothing there. So back then I had this idea. So when I was telling John all about this, he says, I want to introduce you to somebody. He says, I know her for a very long time. Her name is Kathy Carlini. She's been in the publishing world for over 25 years. And, let's set this meeting up. So I did, and there she was. And I walked in, and I could honestly say it took me 5 minutes just to say, wow, she gets it. And then she started telling me how she wants to give back and do more. And she's heard of people and, who are suffering from this. So I guess basically, the ladies here can explain really a lot about Kathy and fantastic graphics. And I do want to add this one little thing that I thought was like a miracle thing. When I met Maureen and we sat down, because Maureen has been working with Kathy for
a couple of years.
And it was so funny. Maureen had asked me if I knew someone, and Anthony, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, and
Anthony Rizzuto?
Yes, Anthony Rizzuto. Mm-hmm. And
so Anthony Rizzuto is a master in social work and works for Seafield Treatment Center, and is also the executive director of FIST, Families in Supportive Treatment. Yes. So Maureen, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Right. And well, our lives have totally changed since Donna walked in the door.
I can imagine.
I have to say that it's been a wonderful experience to be part of all of this.
Now you work for Kathy Carlini.
Yes.
I work with Kathy. Kathy is a pioneer.
What is your position there?
I am the editorial coordinator for the magazine.
Okay.
So that's been quite an experience for me because I am getting to look at more of a behind-the-scenes person. I get to read the stories that people are submitting, and a lot of, I've learned so much, number one.
It's, you know what, and I'm going to pause you there because people don't understand. They really don't capture what the disease of addiction is. It is, the majority of people think it's a moral failing. It is not a moral failing. 1 in 9 adults will be stricken with the disease of addiction. When we bring that back down to adolescence, when an adolescent, whether it be a drag of a cigarette, a hit of a joint, a sip of a beer, and that disease gets turned on, it leaves a permanent imprint in how their brain develops. Mm-hmm. And addiction is really an adolescent disease. Most people struggling with the disease had their first taste as an adolescent. So if we could bring them to the age of 25 without putting a substance in their body, the world would be a much different place.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've truly learned so much being part of all this because, we're going to have a variety of content in the magazine. We will have emotional stories, we'll have informational stories, some of the personal stories that have come across my desk that I've read, I'm in tears. So, it's quite an undertaking to be part of everything, to see this all come to fruition from the ground up.
Yeah.
Is incredible. To see Donna's dream come true, and Kathy coming together with Donna and as a vehicle to put this out there is unbelievable. It really is. So,
Much bigger, higher power at work there.
it's huge.
Yes.
It really is. And,
The response has been.
the response is
The response have
overwhelming.
been. I mean, it's overwhelming, and I keep saying, "Do just a little bit more time." And Kathy's like, "Don't worry, we're going to get this out," because I was concerned. It's coming out by the end of November, and this whole thing just happened. But the work that they do, I mean, it's amazing. Wait till you meet her. She's just incredible. I mean,
You tried to get her to come today. She didn't want to do it.
yeah.
Okay.
She's like, you guys go.
But she will come.
We'll get her.
She'll
We'll get
be
her
here.
here.
She will
We'll
come.
get her here.
She will come when you invite us back.
Okay.
After
the launch.
After the launch, and when we have the next publication. But also, what I wanted to add, and then I want you guys to say a lot more. The magazine also, which I feel really, really good about, is that it's giving an opportunity for someone like Lori Carbonara. And Lori lost her son, Nicholas. But this woman, I remember when I first met her, okay, and we were going to Albany. And that was the first time I met you too, that first bus trip. And I was heartbroken. No, I didn't lose a child. Okay, I didn't lose a child, but I feel this pain. I'm a mother. So,
You don't
Right.
have, right.
but Lori is going to be part of it because Lori, she writes these poems and she
Yes.
puts them on Facebook, and everything that she writes, it touches someone. So she is going to have her own column with her poetry in it for each publication. And it's things like that that are so important to me too. Like things like that.
Well,
Right.
I mean, Laurie did lose a child, and last week, and actually next week will be the continuation. I had the two women that do Maggie Bloomfield and Susan Dingle, who are 47 or 42 and 35 years in recovery, number one.
Wow.
Were screenwriters, were involved in different aspects. Maggie wrote for Sesame Street. So, and they're CASAC, they're certified alcohol counselors, and they're also licensed social workers, so they have private practices. But they also do this creative writing, and they did a show called Breakout out in Southampton. The power of creative writing. So what Lori does really helps her soul. I know when I speak to other parents who have lost children or families that are really struggling, when you can write down something positive every morning about the person that's been lost or is lost because they're still battling, it really can help you start to change how you look at them. You can't stay in the darkness. You have to, you make a choice every morning how you're going to spend your day. So when you can really put those feelings into a creative venue, very, very empowering for the person reading it and very empowering for the person writing it.
Well, so many people struggle alone.
Yes.
And something like this magazine,
Yes.
you never know who's going to pick it up and what part of that magazine will resonate with someone.
Absolutely.
And all we really want to do is get some type of information to someone that could help them.
Yes.
Because so many people are afraid of the stigma.
It's this shame and
Right.
stigma will kill someone every single day. You can't, we have to stop, unfortunately, if you were all standing on the sideline watching your kids play a sport, if parents actually talked instead of, and shared what's really going on. You know, don't be afraid to unite with other parents. Most parents are afraid, you know, and you remember being either a kid or what, you know, when my mother said, well, I'm going to call over there. Oh, you know, well, I'm not going to that party. Because, you know, that's kids' jobs to try to step out of their box. And as a parent, we have to do the right thing. But when you're uncomfortable, there's going to be a lot of other parents uncomfortable with kids going to different parties, with them hanging out at a, you know, where they shouldn't be hanging out. So don't be, when you join together, right? It's a lot more
you
power.
find out a lot more information
Yes.
that way
Yes.
because, you know, lo and behold, you speak to a parent and you find out something that's going on in the neighborhood that you didn't know about. But, you know, again, there is so many people that
Struggle.
that
So many
feel
people
so
struggling.
alone and
Yes.
don't want to necessarily come out and say my child is hurting or
Right.
my family member is hurting because they may be alienated.
Correct.
So
And that goes back to what you're saying, how you could be somewhere sitting in a doctor's office waiting, and there's no sort of, it's not visible in any place that you go to. You see all the pamphlets for, like, you know, pregnancy and all these other things, but you don't see anything addressing this particular, you know, epidemic, and you just kind of feel like, I don't know anyone else is going through this, you know? So it's just like...
Exactly.
Jessica, what do you do at the
What do
publication?
I do? I am, I guess, co-creative director of the magazine.
Okay.
We're, you know, the driving force behind the aesthetics of the magazine. You know, and me and my other artist, the other co-creative director, Rich, helped design the logo. And Kathy really beat us on that one. She's like, I need this to be an amazing logo. So we worked really hard on that. It came out great.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, so we've just been trying to put together the magazine itself, you know, editing all the copy and, you know, making it look nice so people want to pick it up when they see it.
Yes.
I think we're doing a good job so far.
absolutely.
An
Yeah.
excellent job.
So, yeah, it's coming on really well.
Excellent.
It's been a pleasant honor to be working with this.
Yeah, and I drive them crazy.
Oh,
I
please.
drive them crazy. But, you know, and again, going back to Kathy, too, and even with the publication, because even when I first met her, she says, I want to do this. You know, I want, and she funded this to happen, you know. And she said, because if it could reach one person, or help a family member or she goes, then this is all worth it, you know.
Oh, without
this
a doubt.
is all worth it. So, you know, we have so many visions and, you know, of what's to become.
You know, being a family member, you know, when my son really was struggling, you had no idea where to turn.
Right.
Even my pediatrician at the time, you know, gave me some information, but was not.
They're not really educated in
No.
that
Not
area.
themselves.
No,
either. Yeah,
well,
it's just-
so yesterday, Dr. Jeff Reynolds and I we did do a piece on
yeah,
News
I
12.
showed the ladies, yeah.
Yes.
And I am, you know, I stood with Governor Cuomo when he signed that legislation
Yes, you did.
into law. So Cigna actually is starting it prior to January 1st. So important that people can go and get treatment and not be asked to leave after 3 days. They will have 14 days of continuous treatment,
Which is big.
which is huge.
It's really
You know,
big.
plus some detox days. So when we can string some more information along. But to get this information out there, you know, if you're struggling and you've been asked to leave prior to, you can appeal your stay. And nobody knows these little facts.
Right, and that's
So
what
you
we
could
And
have
that's
want to
what
yes.
that's
here.
what we're gonna,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
know, and then
It's
also
important
it
to
is
know your
very
rights.
important.
It's crazy to
Absolutely.
think that after 3 days you can expect someone to be fully recovered from something like that. It's like
Well, you
going
can't.
into
You
it's like
can't
going
be.
into the hospital,
But-
getting
Right.
chemo for 3 days, and saying, "Okay, figure it out."
Well, you know,
Yeah.
you know, unfortunately, they only give you what ends up on air is short. But yesterday, speaking, if I had breast cancer, God forbid, and an insurance company told me, we're going to have you, we know you have a fatal progressive disease. We're okay with that. we're going to have you do talk therapy and some vitamins for the next 6 months because we need you to fail at that first.
Before we're able
And
to go.
Right.
before we're going to give you maybe the next level of care. That would never happen. So we need to speak about parity to this disease. And imagine if the, appropriate level of care was given at the earliest intervention, what would the outcome be? When you let a fatal progressive disease
Right.
start to really ravish someone,
Yeah.
and then expect them to get better in 3 days,
Exactly.
or to tell them, we expect you to get to meetings every single day. We don't care how you get there. We don't care. We're not going to provide transportation. We're not going to, they're,
Right. It's
they're
like
not
negative stigma,
capable.
It's an
Yeah.
impossible feat.
Right.
Yeah.
You're
There's no
asking
way
a
to-
very sick person to do the impossible.
Right.
And or family members who are still trying to work, who are still trying to take care of other family members. There's so much to what goes on with this disease.
Yeah, it's so multi-level.
Yeah. So multi-level.
Right? And, we want to see this magazine everywhere.
Yes.
In pediatricians' offices.
Yes.
Even
Everywhere.
in the accountant office. Because someone is going to walk in that accountant to see that
There isn't
accountant that
anyone, right,
may
he's not
have been
touched.
struggling
Right.
with the disease and may have financial issues, and the accountant doesn't know how to help them. But if that magazine's sitting there, the accountant can read it. Someone walking in the office can read it and say, hey, take pictures of whatever they see in the magazine that might be pertinent for someone
Yes.
they know. So, the list goes on for all the places that this particular magazine can be put in that can help people. And, I see it as becoming a huge
Success.
undertaking and
Yeah.
success because we've had such overwhelming response. Everything's
Yeah.
been so positive, and everybody wants to write and be part of the magazine and sponsor the magazine and help us help people. That it's a wonderful feeling because there is help out there, and a lot of people are so willing. And it's so empowering to be part of it all.
Well, the people that do work in the field of addiction, they don't decide to do that without having really been personally affected by the disease.
Yeah.
So they really do have a fire in their belly to do the right thing and to help people
I think
because
this
they've
will be a
been
great
personally
vehicle.
affected. Yeah, definitely.
And I can honestly say I've never seen anything particularly like this anywhere. So I think people just jumping at the opportunity, like finally somewhere
Yes.
where it's something we can, utilize.
Well,
to
but
spread
because
the
we're not
word.
keeping it in a
Yeah.
church basement anymore.
Exactly. Or,
Right.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
people
like,
were really, and
actually
people are
accessible
still,
places.
listen, everybody's journey, everybody's walk to recovery is different. Some people want to shout it from the rooftop, some people don't want anyone to know.
Right.
And that's a very personal decision, but I think that we need to have more people, I do believe, would share their stories if they weren't thought that they were going to be looked at as someone less
Right.
that they were.
Or, exactly. And we're trying to bring that. Yeah, it needs to be brought
You know,
into a positive
I've
way.
had young people in recovery on the show, and people cannot believe because they are 25 and they're beautiful young women or handsome young men, and they're like, you were a heroin addict? Because the normal, when you hear those two words, heroin addict, you think of a bum living under a
Right.
bridge in New York City.
Right.
It's not in New York City anymore. It's in our lovely tree-lined communities.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
our schools.
House
yes,
at the end of the
it's,
cul-de-sac.
it's
and the
every,
whole- Yeah.
it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Everyone is touched by it. Everyone is affected by it. Even if it's not your family, you're still going to be affected by it. So
Yes,
we
somehow,
have to
some
be,
way.
absolutely, societally, everything.
And then also, I wanted to add too, is that beside the face of recovery, in each publication, there will be Their Lives Mattered column. And it's about the person who was lost from the disease of addiction. And it's about their life and who they were. and whose child they were and what they did in high school, or so, and
Yes.
we're remembering them as well. So
Celebrating them.
yes,
Yes,
and
exactly.
remembering
Yeah.
and celebrating as well. So that's included too. And again, we are being
That's how I look at
right.
my son's life.
Right, and
You know, you can't concentrate on the loss because his life was so much bigger than his loss.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. He was an
Yes.
athlete, or
He was an athlete. He was
Yes,
a
it doesn't-
charismatic kid. All of those things, and you know, if you dwell in the darkness, it's not a good place to stay.
and then also too is, you know, just a little bit more. So we're launching with 54 pages. 18 of the pages we are having sponsors, because without the sponsors, we won't be able to have a publication.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we're being very
Yeah.
yeah.
They're important.
Yeah.
And we are being very particular with who our sponsors are. So
So you're vetting them.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
That's a good thing.
yeah. It's
Unfortunately, so the reason why we even have to mention that is the disease of addiction is getting more press coverage, and unfortunately, that creates a world of
Exactly.
if we can capitalize this and make money on the backs of human suffering, there are people that will do that,
right.
Absolutely.
and
and we're not going
not
to
to-
be a vehicle
Yeah.
to help them do that.
Right, not at all.
That's
Not
not our-
with
that's
not
not
I'm
our-
with
keeping.
everything.
Look, I'm biting my tongue because there's so much that I could say, but
Right.
but I
So,
don't.
and again, you know, we're very transparent. Again, Kathy Carlini, who is funding this and is putting all this together, she has been in business again for over 25 years. Her reputation is, and I'm going to say the word is flawless. She's an amazing woman. And again, I'm honored to know her. I am so gracious to her, you know, that she believes in this so much, and she does everything, you know, the right way. So I mean, yeah, I'm excited. I am really,
I know you are
really
excited.
She comes in the office every day like in tears, and Kathy's
I
like, "Why are you
cry.
crying today?" She's like, "It's
I
happy
cry.
tears. They're happy tears."
Because, you know, when you start seeing a lot of the articles, you know, when they're put together, and now there's these graphics, and it's done in a way, I mean, it's captivating. You want to, when you see this, as I'm seeing a little bit of page by page, I'm not just saying this, you don't want to put it down. You really don't. And I just can't wait till it's out there.
Well, there
can't
isn't,
wait.
you know, that's why, you know, my passion is also to bring, as a family, you need resources, you need other families to talk to. I belong to a club that no parents should talk to, so I talk to a lot of parents that have lost kids because
Yeah.
no one knows what to say to them.
Right.
Unless
We
you
don't
go
have
through
to
the
speak.
stages,
Unless you've been
We
there.
don't have to speak, we can just be,
Mm-hmm.
to know what you're all
understand.
feeling. But also just, you know, to bring light to also people that are struggling with the disease, to remember that their other children have voices that are going unheard, that there's so much going on in that family, and that family needs to walk the road to recovery also. They're all
Yes.
sick with the disease, you know, and I mean that in the nicest of ways, but to learn about what enabling is, to learn about creating your healthy boundaries in a house, to, you know, to do all of those things, you're actually helping the person struggling with the disease also.
Yeah, there's a whole rippling effect through
It's
the
a,
family.
oh my goodness, yeah. Because other siblings will start to, you know, they could be getting 95 average. They could be excelling in sports or drama or this or that, but it's the child that's creating all the chaos that gets all the attention. And at some point in time, the child that's doing the right thing. I might as well be the bad kid too. Maybe they'll pay attention to me.
And there's a lot of things that we're going to be focusing on too, for the young adults.
Yeah.
We actually we're going to be it's going to be a staple, and I like saying that word within the publication, is there's going to be articles from young people in recovery. And
We'll have different resources. I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. It'll come back.
You know, we'll put information such as the Walk for Hope out there,
Yes.
so
Right.
that families can come together
You know,
Right.
it
and
just,
unite together. And
I saw it, you should have a calendar on the very first page and just put
we
it out
have
to the
right.
coalitions.
That is
Yeah.
already been put in place. So there is going to be a calendar. There is going to be, like, I've already reached out and I've already got a lot of the information. So there will be, when Lyra is going to have something, or when there's a walk, or when there's going to be some advocacy, and we're taking a bus up to Albany, or the Fed Up rally. So that is all going to be in there as well.
Very good.
Yeah, it's going to be all like compacted in this amazing publication that is going to have so many resources and to get help.
So you know, you're sitting here, so I'm just going to have to ask you, are you personally affected by the disease in any way, shape, or form?
well, growing up, we were surrounded by drugs and
Yeah.
alcohol, and I did lose someone that I was engaged to that had OD'd after we had broken up. So that was a very devastating time
Yeah.
in my life. It really was very hurtful.
Yeah.
But I think at that point in my life, so many people did drugs at that point. If somebody OD'd, it really wasn't, it didn't seem to be a big deal.
Right.
And, you know, when you're affected by it and your whole life turns upside down because you lost this person that you still cared about and maybe had to move on and move away from because of what their involvement was, there was nothing around
Yeah.
that was able to help me at all. So, you know, in that respect, I was affected by it, but it was just, you just were expected to move on and keep going.
Yeah.
And there was no support or anything like that. So that was really tucked away in my memory banks and in
Yeah.
my heart. And this actually is starting to bring a lot more of
Understanding
that
as to what
information
happened.
out. Yeah.
So you can really understand how they suffered.
Yes, and I can actually be more empathetic,
Yes.
and I guess I am more affected by people's stories, because when I do read editorials that come in from people, I sit back and you know, you're reading it from a parent's perspective or a cousin's perspective, and you know, it's something that really, I guess, touched a lot of feelings in me. So now I read people's articles that come in, and now Donna has me crying.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah. Well, it's hard not to be. You know, it really creates a lot of havoc.
It does, and it was a very confusing time for me back then.
Yeah.
So things have changed a lot in my life, and now I'm part of this avenue, which is wonderful. It really is.
Yeah. How about you, Jess?
Um,
And it's okay to say no, because that's
Honestly,
by
I
the
have-
grace of God. That, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, I have to count my blessings on that one. Yeah, absolutely. But so I can't exactly particularly empathize
Okay.
with what people go through because I haven't been affected as closely, I guess, as other people have.
Yes.
But however, when I was in school, I was definitely surrounded by it. There were people that I was loosely associated with, and I knew did drugs and whatnot, but it was never really.
You
brought
chose
out
not
into-
to.
I didn't exactly.
You chose a
but there
different
are
path.
friends. I've had friends who indulged in that sort of thing, but it was never really. It was just very swept under the rug of where I went to school. Like it was
Okay.
never really addressed in sort of a way where, there was an avenue for kids to go to get any sort of
Counseling.
help. But they just like
Yeah.
they're a druggie. That's a druggie. That's it.
Yeah.
It was always
That was
negative
the
connotation.
bad kid.
Yeah, those are the bad. You just stayed away from that. Was it?
Yeah.
You didn't try to help them. You didn't do anything with they
Yeah.
they
So the
did
bad
what they did,
kids,
and then
the
that was
bad
that.
family.
It was that negative connotation, that stigma.
Yeah.
So you don't really see these kids other than the druggies. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
that's
And that's
the
a
troubling
terrible
part. Yeah.
Terrible way
To look at it. Absolutely. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Because then what are these kids supposed to do? They're going to be drowned in this horrible.
Well,
segmentation.
unfortunately, you don't just decide to pick up and do something. So as a society, that's why I keep saying, when I speak all over the state, especially to people that are in treatment, and I ask them the question, if you could go back in time and speak to yourself, what age would you be not to make that choice again? And when you have a room, so maybe 5 out of 5,000 people that I've spoken to, and they all say the overwhelming age of 12, what are we doing wrong as a society that so many 12-year-olds want to escape reality?
Does something so
Because that's what they want to do.
Exactly.
Because their lives are moving at such an exponentially fast pace, and they can't deal. They're 12. They're not 25. So, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? Because as a society, not individuals,
There's a lot of pressure in
a
school.
lot of pressure in school, and it's getting worse. So at age 14, you got to start studying for your SATs.
Right.
What college are you going to? What do you want to
Crazy.
major in? Can't they be 14?
I know.
Right? And they're also told, and why aren't you having the time of your life? This is the best time in your life, and when you're in high school and you have no responsibilities,
But they have tons of responsibilities.
but they have tons of responsibility.
It's a terrible paradox.
It's an oxymoron.
It's ridiculous.
It's an oxymoron.
Yeah. So.
Because I love talking to high schoolers and asking them, and they say, maybe you don't think I'm under pressure. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning to get to school by 6:45. And for a teenager, that's a burden. Having raised them, it's not a good time.
It's no trouble
It's
getting up in the
dark
morning.
out
It's
when
terrible.
it's dark out.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm like, why am I upset? Why
They're
am I
eating
out
lunch
right
by 10 o'clock. They're out of school. They have sports or they have a club. Then they go to a job perhaps. Then by the time they get home and have something to eat, they have probably 5 hours worth of homework. And they're going to bed at 12, 1 o'clock.
Right.
I remember.
When do they have fun? When do they have fun? So do you want to escape? Do you not want to feel that? Yeah.
And then at that point, how can you blame them at that point? When you're that young and have that much, on your plate,
Yeah.
and it's readily, unfortunately, accessible by these kids. So it's just like.
But as a society also, right? So will you have, what's the commercials we see on TV? Oh, you can't sleep? You have the
Right.
magic butterflies.
Right.
Does your child have ADD? Oh, we can give them a pill for that.
Right.
You
That's
can't sleep.
the most
Yes.
ridiculous
Everything
point.
is a drug. It's a magic pill instead of saying, hey, what's going on with you?
Right.
So my big thing too is really to empower kindergartners, so young children also to be able to verbalize, give them coping skills, give them life skills, give them relaxation techniques, and give their parents also the ability to be able to communicate with them. And I've been sharing this story a lot. When I was little and you came home and my mom said, I would tell her, I have butterflies in my stomach. She didn't say, oh, you have anxiety, honey, we have to take you to the
Right,
doctor.
exactly.
She'd
blah,
say,
blah, blah, or something.
well, what's bothering
What's
you?
wrong? Right.
What's giving you butterflies in your tummy?
Right.
We have to, it's not a disease. It's not a problem. It doesn't need a
Right.
pill. It needs, what's bothering you? When do you get those butterflies? Oh, maybe the teacher's going to call on you and you don't understand what's going on in math. Maybe they're going to call on you to read a passage and you're afraid to read out loud in school. Whatever it could be. That's what needs to be addressed, and to give them the tools to solve the problem as best they can themselves, so that when they do get to be 10, 11, 12, that they're
They know
not
what to do.
saying, right.
And it's no, and the part of the problem is that when you go to the doctor's office for these things, they're so willing and readily just prescription for that, prescription for this, prescription for that, and that ends up almost ends up being a segue.
Oh, absolutely.
Because then that's all you're gonna know. You're gonna like, okay, I have
Absolutely.
this problem, I have to go get a pill.
You
That's
know,
what you're gonna
when my
associate with.
son died, there's not a doctor that wouldn't have written me a prescription for Xanax, Valium,
Exactly.
Ambien. I could have
Right.
become an alcoholic and everyone would have understood that.
Sure.
At some point in time, I had to sit through the grief of losing my son. As I do, you know, every day I do that in some way, shape, or form. At some point in time, you still have to sit through your stuff.
You have to be alone with yourself and
You have to
get in
process
touch
the
with your
feelings.
Yeah.
You have to walk that walk. You can't bury it. So there's so many people that bury everything that's bothering them. You know,
Well, it's hard to do that. It hurts.
It hurts.
Right?
It's going to hurt more though. But you know, families are dealing with divorce. They're dealing with, you know, we always talk about a child being addicted. A child may be dealing with the addiction of their parents. So where I live in Kings Park last year, 2 parents, one was dead, and the other parent is brain damaged, quite honestly. So a freshman and a junior found their parents. So what were they living with at home?
Right.
A dirty
Not a
little
good
secret going to
situation.
school. And
Keeping that
keeping
inside
that
of you
inside
every day. Is
every day.
tormenting.
You know, and talking to kids that were sexually abused, that were, you know, a lot of bad things happen to very innocent bystanders. So when they get to be teenagers, they don't know what to do with all that trauma.
Right.
Well, then I don't want to do anything with it. But when I smoke pot, gee, imagine I don't have to deal with any of that. When I drink, I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, they're coping.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to have signs and symptoms for parents. Very important to, you know,
Right.
give kids Al-Anon, Alateen, all of those things where they can find other kids that are going through what they're going through, to give them a voice,
Mm-hmm.
to help them heal. So that they heal in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And also, with the publication too, we wanted to make sure that it was out there, because it's the holidays are coming.
Yes.
So
the
it's
holidays
very,
are a very tough
very
time for
important,
families.
and we're addressing suicide,
Yes.
because suicide rates go
Sky high.
sky high around the holidays. And we are also addressing, of course, how to cope being in recovery. And we are also addressing, we have an article that's going to be addressed to how to cope with the holidays with the loss now.
Yeah.
You know, don't maybe do those same things. So
I'll be
so-
doing another series too, because I know how important it is.
Right.
You know, it's very difficult. It's also very important. I did some speaking to family groups last year, and I'll do it again this year. You know, sometimes families will say, well, why do I have to lock up all my alcohol? Why can't I drink when you have a person in early recovery living in your home? Well, guess what? If you think that's a sacrifice, what happens if your loved one isn't here anymore because they're dead from their disease because you weren't willing to give that up?
Right.
You know, that's not a sacrifice. And if you can't go a day without a drink yourself, then maybe you need to look at yourself.
That's
That
another
may
issue.
be another issue
You may not be involved in
altogether.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's very exciting. Donna's
It
going to
is.
come out of her skin.
I know. She's like,
She is. It's a beautiful
You know,
thing.
because
Yeah.
I just feel I feel gifted that I could be able to do this, but I wouldn't be able to do it, you know, without this magnificent team of people. And it's just to be able to, again, to just get the resources out there, you know, to reach somebody. And that's really, you know, it's so important. It's so important, and it's again even I went, what was it, a few weeks ago, to the Rock and Recovery dance
Yes.
with Lyra, and it was wonderful, and it was a church, and it was filled with so many people and dancing and all that. And these are the things that also that we're putting in the publication, so many people know about this.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah.
That was a fun night.
It was a great night, and you were on it that
Yes.
night. Yes, you were.
Missed
So,
out.
We missed out.
Oh, you did?
We
Were you
missed out.
invited and you didn't come?
I
You know, Donna's been inviting us to different things.
And you can't go to all the things that are around.
Can't go to all
I know.
things because, you know, mom and you have
Yes,
to do
yeah,
things.
you
have
wear
to
a
do
lot of
things at
hats.
home, and
I completely understand.
there's a lot of conflict. Everybody's busy.
Yeah,
but
everybody's busy.
we're starting to do things together, and
Yes.
I'm going to different coalition meetings with her, and I guess we'll be attached
So you went to
one another.
Communities of Solution?
yes, we
Yeah.
presented. Yes, it was great. It was wonderful. We did, and we are part of the Town of Babylon Partnership Committee, and we are. Matter of fact, you'll be coming with me to the Heroin Task Force meeting in Nassau County.
I'm on that committee.
Yes, you are, and yeah.
The meeting's been changed to November 4th in case you didn't read your email yet.
Oh, okay. I have not had a chance yet to read my
Okay,
email.
I'm
So
glad you said that.
Yes.
okay.
I know that Anthony Rizzuto and I will be presenting for Renee too, the assistant district attorney.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
In
Well,
December.
thanks.
Yeah.
Well, these are right, and I said to.
Well, Madeline Singas, who is the Nassau County District Attorney, has been a great advocate also. Commissioner Tim Sinney, and they've been on the show,
Yeah.
and they're really,
They're wonderful.
you know, they're just doing
An amazing.
job at what they need to do, and really
Yes.
changing. You know, Madeline Singas sent legislation up to Albany last year because drugs are really, when you have possession, it goes by weight. So weight of heroin compared to other drugs
Right.
could be a misdemeanor when it really is a felony. So we've changed that, which is a good thing.
Yes.
And they're starting to prosecute the people that are dealing, you know. First off, there is no good batch of heroin. So, you know, it appalls me still in this day and age that when in Smithtown just this past weekend, 3 kids within 36 hours
Yeah.
were overdosed.
It's heartbreaking.
Fatal overdoses. Now that in and of itself sends a message to other people struggling with the disease. That must have been a great drug. I want to find that dealer, because that's how their minds will work when affected with this disease. But you will have people saying, well, that must have been a bad batch of heroin. Now let's just really think about that statement for a second. Is there a good batch of heroin?
No.
Any batch of heroin will kill you. Period. End of conversation. So a drug dealer is going to cut it to make more money, make it, you know, that's what they do. They're not trying to give you a
Look
better
what they're-
high.
Look what they're
Not
doing.
looking
Look
out
what
for
they're
your,
cutting
you
it
know.
with. I mean, just look what it's.
Fentanyl, rat poison, doesn't really matter what
Yeah,
they cut it
well,
with. They
yeah,
just,
right.
yeah,
And you have
they
no
don't
idea.
care.
It is.
Right. They're not your friend.
Exactly. They're not
No.
there to, you know,
Yeah.
service you in any sort of way. They're just trying to get your money.
Correct.
So,
And it is a big business for them. So when we start closing more and more doors on them, or raising the stakes, as they say, you know, back in the 70s there was the Rockefeller drug laws, and people
Right.
thought they were appalling. I'm not quite sure how appalling they really were, because if you think about it and you decided to do it, then you better be able to serve up the consequences. Right?
Very true.
So
100%.
we only have a few minutes left,
Few
and
minutes
you
left.
thought that you were going to have a
Yeah.
problem with an hour.
I know.
So
And then it's also we are going to have an online edition as well.
yes.
And
you know, it's funny
Yeah,
because
so-
really in this day and age, I love to read a book, not a Kindle. I have a Kindle, and I'll read that because it's easier than carrying books when you vacation.
On the go, exactly. But I still
But
prefer a book too.
I
like the
love,
physical
I
touch of the
just
page.
love to touch and fold the page where you want to leave off,
Me too.
and magazines.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's
Right.
easier on my eyes
It
too.
is, yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, I like to look at all the pictures.
We will have great
They'll give you
graphics.
lots of
I just
pictures.
love, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
A to R. So look for it at the end of November. We're going to have this great team of people back on after it's launched and the first book comes out. I'm excited for it. You know, the more word we can get
Right,
out
exactly.
that it is a
Better.
disease, not a moral failing. It is a disease. People don't wake up. My son didn't wake up at the age of 15 and say, hey, you know what? I don't want to play Division I lacrosse. I think I'll kill myself and destroy my family at the age of 21. So, thank you so much, you guys,
Thank
for
you.
coming
Thank you
out
so much for
tonight.
having
Thank you.
us.
And I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a blessed week. And, you know, it's time for us to all worry about one another again. Have a great week. Good night.
Another dark hotel room.